Hollow Knight is considered one of the greatest indie games ever made. Millions of players love it, and many developers still study it years after its release. But what actually makes it feel so satisfying to play? At first, you might think it's the beautiful hand-drawn art or incredible soundtrack. And while those certainly make the world unforgettable, they are not the reason every jump, every attack, and every movement feels so good. The real answer lies in dozens of carefully crafted design decisions that work together behind the scenes. Individually, most of them seem small, but together, they create one of the best examples of game feel ever made. So let's break down what Hollow Knight can teach every game developer. The first thing Hollow Knight does is earn your trust. The moment you press jump, the knight leaves the ground instantly. When you dash, there is no noticeable delay. Movement is predictable and every input produces exactly the result you expect. After just a few minutes, something interesting happens. You stop thinking about the controls entirely. Instead of fighting your character, you are focusing on the challenge in front of you. That's incredibly important because difficult games only works when player touch the controls. If a player die because they made mistake, they will usually try again. But if they feel like controllers fail them, frustration quickly replaces motivation. Before adding flashy mechanics or impressive visuals, make sure the basic movement feels responsive. Because if the foundation isn't solid, everything built on top of it will suffer. Once the controls feels great, Hollow Knight keeps reinforcing every action you perform. Swing your nail into enemy, you will hear a satisfying impact sound. The enemy reacts immediately, particle burst from the hit, and there is even a subtle screen shake that gives the attack weight. Defeat an enemy and geoscatter across the ground with its own unique sound and animation. Heal yourself and visual effect make the action feel powerful, even though you are simply restoring health. The important thing is that the game never ignores your input. Every action receives an immediate response. This constant feedback tells your brain that what you are doing matters, making every simple interaction feels rewarding. Great game feel isn't just about how the player acts, it's also about how the game responds. Now, here is where things get really interesting. If you remove any single detail from Hollow Knight, the game would probably still be good. Remove the landing dust or the slight attack recoil or the tiny camera movement when you hit an enemy. Most players would not even notice, but that's exactly the point. Great game feel isn't created by one amazing feature. It's created by hundreds of tiny details working together. Watch closely when the knight lands after a jump. There is a small landing animation, a burst of dust beneath the feet, a subtle movement that makes the landing feel grounded. During combat, even a slight recoil makes every attack feel like it has real impact. These details don't demand attention. Instead, they quickly convince your brain everything has weight, momentum, and purpose. That's the difference between a game that feels functional and one that feels polished. Hollow Knight is difficult. There is no denying that. It's also remarkably fair. When you lost a boss fight, you almost always know why. Maybe you dodged too early, attacked one too many times, or healed at wrong moment. The game isn't cheating. It's simply asking you to play better. Because the controls are reliable and enemy patterns remain consistent, every defeat becomes useful information. Instead of blaming the game, players naturally start asking themselves, what should I do differently next time? That's exactly the mindset great game design creates. A fair challenge motivates players to improve. An unfair challenge only make them want to quit. Finally, Hollow Knight understands one of the most important principles in game design. Don't overwhelm the player. At the beginning of the game, your movement is incredibly simple. You can move, jump, and attack. That's enough to teach the core mechanics without overwhelming new players. As the adventure continues, new abilities arrive one at a time. Dash, wall climbing, double jump, crystal dash. Each new mechanics builds on ones you are already mastered. By the end of the game, you are combining all those abilities naturally, solving platforming challenges and navigating combat without consciously thinking about each individual move. The game doesn't become deeper because it adds dozens of mechanics. It becomes deeper because simple mechanics begin interesting with one another. That's how lasting depth is created. So, it's not one revolutionary mechanics. It's responsive controls that earn your trust, feedback that make every action satisfying, hundreds of tiny details that create polish, fair challenges that encourage mastery, and simple mechanics that gradually grow into deep gameplay. These aren't just lessons for Hollow Knight. They are principles that can improve your almost any game. In fact, while building my own Pro 2D controller for Unity, these are the exact kind of ideas I have been focusing on. Responsive movement, polished mechanics, and creating a controller that simply feel good to play. If you are interested, you can check it out using the link in the description. And if there is another game you'd like me to break down next, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.